If you want happy, healthy, and beautiful plants, there's something you absolutely must do throughout the growing season that so many people forget. Fertilize! Let me show you how we do it. Every season, I make my own fertilizer using this amazing plant in the garden called comfrey. I chop some leaves, throw it in this 5-gallon pot with some water, and I let it brew for a few weeks. When it's done, I'm left with this really rich fertilizer that the plants in the garden love. It's organic, it's homemade, the plants love it. What more could you ask for? It's been a few weeks since I made this batch. Ooh, and I think she's ready. Oh! Just so you know, it smells like shit. The plants break down and release their nutrients, but they leave some gunk behind. So I'm just gonna get this out of here, throw it in the compost. Yum! Now that my concoction is ready to use, I can fertilize. I grab a watering pitcher, and I start filling her up. This stuff is pretty potent, so I don't really like to use too much of it. I usually fill a watering pitcher like 10 to 20% full with the fertilizer, and then I dilute it with water. I got a pretty big garden with a lot of plants, so one 5-gallon jug is great for one feeding, and then I make another batch when I'm done. Let's fertilize. My squash plants have been very busy this season. They've been producing lots of flowers and lots of fruit, and as you can see, it's gotten pretty big. Producing all those flowers and fruit, growing all of these leaves takes energy. That's why it's so important to fertilize your plants, because you're replenishing them with the nutrients they need to keep growing and producing throughout the season. When fertilizing, one of the surefire ways to make sure your plants get the most out of your fertilization, go right for the root system. That way it goes right to the plant. If you're using granules, just dig them in and water them in around the roots. Here is our beautiful comfrey. I harvested this just a few weeks ago to make my tea, and it's already grown back to a fully mature plant. The reason comfrey in particular is a really great plant to use to make these fertilizers is because the leaves are really rich in potassium and other minerals that are amazing for your plants, especially our fruiting plants. They need potassium and phosphate to continuously produce all of those fruits, so comfrey is great for them. Slay, comfrey! Now just a few more quick tips about fertilizing. I like to fertilize my plants every 2 to 3 weeks. I feel like that's consistent enough to keep my plants productive and happy throughout the growing season, especially for my fruiting plants. Also, when it comes to fertilizing, I reserve it for the mornings. It's not something you necessarily want to do in the evenings when plants are going to rest. I feel like they're a lot more receptive to fertilizing early in the morning before the intensity of the day. I also like to let my plants get a little dry before fertilizing. Because I'm using a water-soluble fertilizer, if my plants are extra thirsty, they are a lot more receptive to the nutrients in the water. So many plants benefit from fertilizing. There's your fruiting plants like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, and squash, but there's also your more cruciferous vegetables. This late in the season, I have giant cabbages growing, and they tend to slow down around this time of the season, so I give them an extra boost and fertilize them. Every single plant in your garden will benefit from food. I strongly urge you though to use organic or homemade fertilizers in the garden. You don't want anything with synthetic ingredients because those actually take a long time to biodegrade in the soil, if at all, and it can actually choke out your plants or choke out the ecology within the soil. The microbes within the soil can get overwhelmed from all of those synthetic chemicals, and it can cause them harm. Or those synthetic chemicals don't break down at all in the soil, and they end up leaching into the groundwater, which ends up in rivers, streams, lakes, and even our oceans. Use organic or homemade fertilizers that biodegrade naturally within the soil. Or there's a really great fertilizer called Alaska Fish Fertilizer that's literally made from fish emulsion. Feed your plants. They'll thank you with abundance.